for the Office of CIO with Moss Adams. Then we have Mr. Deven Jani. He is Director Global Procurement Services with Schneider Electric. We have Mr. Tanmay Agarwal. He is VP and Head Global Business Services with Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverage Private Limited. And our moderator for this session is Anand Vaidya. He is AVP India Business Head with High Radius. Please welcome all our speakers.
Since it's the last session of the day, we are going to wake up everyone in the room. So we are going to play a small video. So we are just waiting for the video to start. So we'll begin, and my name is Anand Vaidya, and I head the India business for High Radius. Since it's 5:40 p.m., I'll just give 40-second elevator pitch about High Radius. So we help the finance leaders like you in 8 hours of sound sleep by helping you to managing your DSOs, improving your processes, and helping you to close the books earlier. I'm joined by Mr. Tanmay, Mr. Deven, and Mr. Siva. They represent different companies, and we'll get into their introductions one by one. But there are very interesting trivia about the companies where they work. So Tanmay works for Coca-Cola, and you saw the video. But there is something which is very interesting. You know Coca-Cola company because of Coca-Cola, but they actually have 70 more than $1 million revenue brands. And interestingly, the 17th brand was from India. So any guesses which is the brand? It's an open question.
$1 billion brand from India.
Should we thumbs up? The thumbs up is right. So thumbs up is the right answer. I'm joined by Deven, who is from Schneider. Now there is something which is very interesting about Schneider. When we met before the call or before this panel, he mentions Schneider started in year 36. So I said 1936, right? He said no, 1836. So it is one of the oldest companies, and they never changed the name over the last 185 years. So that is something which is very unique about them. I am joined by Siva, who is from Kargil. Now, any chocolate that you eat from any company, there is a stamp of Kargil in that chocolate. So we talk about roti kapda makan, so it's the roti part of that. So with that, I will get into the panel discussion directly, and I will request the panelists to introduce themselves, and maybe Tanmay, if you want to start.
Yeah, I think the video said it also. I'm privileged to work for the Coca-Cola company. the word which is the second most used word after the word okay. And I lead the business shared services here for 15 countries that are present in the bottling group.
I am Devin Jani, overall 25 years of experience working with Schneider for past 11 years now. Having worked with companies like Motorola and G for other 10 years. And overall, if you look at this is the second shared services that I have built. Before that in G also I was part of the team which built the shared services for direct procurement. And I think overall, if you look at from greenfield projects point of view, I have working experience wherein 4 greenfield projects starting from scratch, like bringing up the industry is brought up by.
Hey, good evening. This is Siva here. I have about 20 plus years of experiences. I've been helping various product companies and GDCs to set up the center of excellencies. I've been with Siemens, I've been with Sony in setting up the SOC and setting up the automation innovations and game testing, and then I've been with Cargill supporting the CIO office in building the strategies for automation across these spaces. My specialization is especially setting up these GDCs, making them unique for India and making them most interesting part of that, right? Because that's become a common now.
Thank you, everyone. So we'll jump directly into the panel discussion. The topic is setting up the course for 2022 and beyond. And we are going to pick up some of the very interesting topics. And ESG has become sort of a strategic initiative. Right now, the investors don't ask the CFOs and CEOs how much revenue you are getting. They ask what is happening on the ESG. So net zero has become sort of buzzwords. And that is my open question to the panel. And maybe Tanmay, if you want to start. So what Coca-Cola is doing for the net zero, and how do you see the things planning over the next 5 years?
Yeah, thanks, Anand. So I think first of all, let me really appreciate that whoever is now left as a part of the original audience, hopefully you take away a few more nuggets than all the downloads that have happened since morning. As they say, best for the last, right? So yeah, thank you for really sitting for this last show. So I think this is a very, very important topic which Anand has raised. And it's also, and I actually took a session on ESG and how shared services can support ESG in one of the shared services forums. And just like in most organizations we say safety first, it now needs to get into the DNA of sustainability first also. It's like parallel with safety. All of you know that at the COP26, Mr. Modi has declared that we will be net zero as a country by 2070. It's no small task for an economy that's slated to become a $5 trillion economy in the next 5 years, and then continue to grow. And we are one of the fastest growing economy, and we've even surpassed UK recently. It's not easy. Maharashtra government has said that by 2050 they want to be net zero. The government is damn serious about this. We at the Coca-Cola company and many other competitors, we sell a entry pack, which is a penetration pack for our consumers. It's the Tetra pack. All of you have had that Maaza 200 ml Tetra pack, right? It has the small plastic straw. Effective 1st July 2022 this year, the government of India banned plastic straws and single-use plastic. It's a huge business impact, and everyone was lobbying with the government to kind of say that, yeah, can we delay this decision? But as I said, the government is extremely serious about it. The new EPR law, which is end producer's responsibility, has come into effect effective February of this year, which means that we have to collect and recycle 100% of the plastic that we send into the environment. And it's mandated. It needs to be validated, just like our GST, and somebody was talking about it, that you cannot claim GST credit unless the supplier or vendor partner has uploaded his invoice in the portal. like that, the recycler has to give a certificate in your name or the brand owner's name that yes, we have collected and recycled on behalf of Coca-Cola company. So it's extremely serious matter, whether we take it at an enterprise level, as a global level, enterprise level, at a company level, and also at an individual level. One other thing that I want to talk about is from a shared services perspective, not much is happening on sustainability and the net zero agenda. There are two areas that we are now trying. So I've been privileged to run the sustainability agenda for Coca-Cola in India here for last 1.5 years as a special project, which was about setting up an ecosystem to collect 100% of the plastic that we send out in the market, and it's no small amount, it's 140,000 tons of plastic that we send out. It's humongous. By 2024, sorry, we are supposed to have in all these PET bottles that you see on your tables, 20% recycled content. It's a mandate. By 2025, we are supposed to reuse these PET bottles, and we don't have ideas. That's the business challenge that we are sitting with. So the government is very serious, and shared services can play a huge role in all of this, as we have been pioneers in various other things, and like you heard all through the day, from driving innovation, driving new practices and things like that. Our organization actually saw shared services supporting the plastic initiative for the enterprise. So that's one big play that one has, because it's humongous. Whether we take ingredients, sorry, I'll just go a little long because it's very close to my heart. If you take ingredients and how our suppliers being sustainable in their approach, if you take the quantum of plastic that you use in the bottles, if you take setting up green factories and energy efficient factories. Now, the government of India has mandated that by 2030, 500 gigawatt of power will be green power, which is 50% of India's total power that is generated. And that's why you see humongous amount of investments happening in solar, happening in green hydrogen and all of that space. EV today is not sustainable or environment friendly if the power supply is fossil fuel. And that's where we need to change. And shared services has a huge play with regard to what they can do for the enterprise in terms of all these elements and tracking and monitoring and doing analytics around it. And then of course, within the shared services organization, simple things like being paperless and digitized is a huge play and helps or gets towards net zero from a paperless office perspective and digitization perspective. Doing more with less is nothing but the philosophy of sustainability. So I'll just pause here. I could go on, but I'll let Devan and others add their point of view.
No, excellent points, right? I think this is close to everyone's heart. This topic is like that, right? So since he started with some example, let me also give one example. So recently, a month back, right, we had a supplier day, right? So it was kind of, we didn't get supplier day since 2019, we missed 20 and 21, right? So it was like 3 years of backlog that we had, to carry, and number of awards to be distributed to suppliers, recognition and all. So we thought, let's do it. We had a similar kind of hall being booked at Leela Palace, right? So we wanted to make it net zero, right, when it comes to carbon emission. So we kind of went out to organization and they said you have to plant 6,500 trees if you have to make it net zero, if an event of this scale, right? It is similar scale, let me tell you. Morning till late evening we had the session. So we said, okay, fine. If we have to plant so many trees, may not be, we may not be good enough for the task, right? So why don't we involve the suppliers? Because anyway they are going to come. So we kind of worked with them, and you will not believe how many trees we planted in Bangalore. 12,000 trees. right? So this is one example how people are pretty conscious about it, right? So we have, just to introduce, Schneider Electric stands on two pillars: sustainability and efficiency, right? This is our business model, right? Wherein we kind of offer the energy management solution or industry solutions, right? We have in India almost 28 factories, 50 DCs, and 36 DCs and 50 offices, right? And we have a big task, right, to kind of make sure that we manage our, we do good job on energy management, and we go net zero as soon as possible. From shared services point of view, right, what we are doing is we are helping, our line of businesses, our product lines, and also procurement, right, to meet the net zero target. Now, he talked about net zero target, right? So this year we have a target to make our own factories globally net zero, and number is like 75 number of factories out of 300 factories we have to make net zero. So today we have already achieved 64 factories are already net zero. So when I say net zero, meaning the employee transport is green. We have logistics green. Products which we are manufacturing is green. There is no discharge from the factory and everything, right? So this encompasses the whole gamut. When it comes to sustainability target, as he rightly said, today when we go and stand in front of investors, they ask, don't tell me finances, right? We already know you will be doing good profit, good revenue would be generated in the year. Tell us what you are going to do about, what are you doing on sustainability, or what is the progress report on that, right? So there is a lot of anxiety, and I would say the stock price movement is dependent on that, right? What Schneider Electric is doing, or for that matter, the big organization like Coca-Cola is doing on sustainability. Because today, buyers are pretty informed. The millennial buyers, right, they already feel that our fathers and forefathers have destroyed this earth, right? And we have social responsibility to restore it, right? And this is something which is coming forcefully in any decision making that they make, right? So if they want to buy a solution or a product, quality is given. What they look for is not even brand. What they look for is this company, what is it doing for environment, right? And this is the major driving criteria for any company's future, right? Today, I am glad to tell you that we have taken a pledge that we will make 1,000 suppliers net zero by 2030. We, from shared services team, we are working with all the 1,000 suppliers. Actually, we are working with double the supplier. Of course, we have given conservative target to street, but we are working with double the supplier, right, to make sure, and we are just going to handle them till end. And there are a lot of challenges, as he said, right? I mean, it's not that it's easy and it's doable, and the biggest challenge we face in all countries is green electricity, right? Because people are using fossil fuels, and even we have electricity coming, it is not clean, right? It's not clean energy. And that is something which will take time. And with Russia stopping gas now to Europe, we are taking a step back, right? Because Europe is turning to fossil fuels. So it's interesting times, but a lot of awareness is now there.
Yeah, thanks. I think let me take a little lighter subject, because I thought there was too much of heavy on it. So since he introduced about chocolate, I would just like to give you some insights about it, right? So there is a very interesting study happened before COVID. India started eating 4 times more chocolates than US. So suddenly Cargill got bigger. Okay, when such a big market is there, why still we are sitting only in other countries not exploring India? That's where they put up the previous CFO, and he moved to APAC to set up a transformation office in APAC. Then they realized, and maybe COVID has also brought up that kind of a transition, I would say. The reason for it, right, our raw materials got stuck somewhere else, our shipments are not happening. Then we realized, why should we do something more Indian? So this has happened, and then recently we opened a new R&D center for chocolates in India. And this is going to bring up a lot of cocoa products, cocoa producers in India, because cocoa is never, it was produced, but if you see this homegrown cocoa chocolates, you would have seen in some of the hill stations and all, right? But that is not sufficient for the crowd what we have today. It's about 130 to 140 crore people, right? It's not going to be, because each of us is eating so much, right? So Cargill has invested heavily on building an R&D center here. And this is not only going to be just an R&D center, it consists of a lot of the productions, supply and everything, right? This is going to help our local farmers who are going to invest in cocoa is going to become a much, much bigger market for them.
So what as a shared services we helped is, the first step is we given the data. How much amount of chocolate is being eaten by Indians, right? And we are almost, China and India is now the closest one when we compare to the US. One point of time they always used to grab only the US. Sometimes in the evening snack used to be a snack bar, right? But now it is not the same. Like every vending machine in India has also started having, every kids, right? We have different varieties, right? You put it in the biscuit, you put it in the bread, you put it in the dosa. So it's like that the level of difference is coming, right? So that really attracted the market because we provided so much of data. What is our consumptions of chocolates? And those 3 years of COVID, everybody started baking, everybody started cooking. Now we understand how much of chocolate we need when we want to do those bakings in our homes, right? Suddenly this awareness kicked off, and then that really turned out to be an interesting fact, how we can pour more business using this JDC, right? Now the next step is, okay, which location, where do we want to get the raw material and where do we want to supply it, right? So again, those data is coming from our GDC setups, where we have a data like setups and we could able to provide more, and then the next step is how the AI and ML is going to be helping them in getting into the next step. So that's the net zero for us and how it's getting changed for us actually.
Absolutely, thanks a lot. So the next question, before I go to the next question, there is an audience question for you. Nassim Nicholas Taleb is one of the most celebrated thinkers. Which is his favorite or the most known book? Any answers? Sorry? Nassim Nicholas Taleb is one of the most celebrated thinkers. He has written many famous books. Which is the most celebrated book? So probably
There are prizes, no?
I think there are no prizes, so probably they are not answering. But the answer is Black Swan, and the next question is about Black Swan only. So Black Swan means something which is unknown, and the world has gone through such events over the last 2 years, whether it is COVID, Ukraine war, China, Taiwan, etc. So how, as shared services leaders, you are handling those challenges, and what are your thoughts about the future unknowns which are going to come? Let's start with Siva.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting topic, right? We all face these challenges, right? There is always a proverb saying that, right? Change is a continuous change, which you cannot change it, right? So that's how it becomes like that, right? So especially these 2-3 years in the COVID, right? We all find different ways of working. So I still remember when there used to be a cutover activities happens, everybody fly to one particular place, sit there and then do physical interactions, create a war room, and then they do all these kind of works, right? Now suddenly we saw last 2 years there was no war rooms, but still the transactions are happening much bigger, much faster, right? Now we understand, okay, remotely we will also be able to operate, right? So how that transition is happening. So it's a core, when there is a need, we end up doing that. When there is no need, right, we step back and say, we take a layered seat, okay, I can still operate. Or I should travel and do that, right? So those kind of things, especially I wanted to bring it up. One incident, very, very critical for us is during this Ukraine-Russia war, a lot of ships for cargo got stuck in the sea, which is captured by Russia, and then we got stuck. But what was helping us is, we are doing much bigger business in Russia, and we never stepped out like the other financial firms. We wanted to continue because Cargill has given a statement that if I stop business in Russia, there will be no bread for the Russian people. So we still wanted to continue the business, and then that's where there was an agreement, and some of our ships were able to pass through that canal actually. Otherwise, we would have got stuck, and our ocean transports would have been red over there everywhere. But so just to give you insight, Cargill runs about 1,500 ships in a given day at any point of the time. It carries food grains across the globe, right? So a lot of people may not know that how the grains are transporting. So even there is a small impact on a small corner of the world, it doesn't like that, right? The entire grain chain happens. Similarly, Ukraine produces about 14% of wheat grain today. If that is not getting transported to other parts of the world, we are going to get stuck over there, right? So that is where if you would have seen commodity prices in Europe, it gets much, much bigger. Your bread packs are getting higher. That is because you couldn't even push the Ukraine wheat to the other parts of the world, right? So that's where we are working out to figure out what are the local constraints we are going to have and how we are going to handle it. So we are setting up near shores and quick centers, which is very standalone centers, where Ukraine cannot take all over to Germany, but it can do to Poland. So from Poland, how can we transfer, right? So those are the mechanisms which we are working out. It is not just going to be just a transfer, right? We have to figure out what are the costing transfers, what are the port exchanges, what are the your mechanism for transportations. You cannot do single transports now, right? You have to do multiple transportations. It can be a road, it can be water, it can be air also. Some places we have to carry that, right? Since we need for a grain so much, we have to invest a lot of these thinkings and how it can get interchanged. So it is nowadays it's become, you guys know, right? The information and the data is also, it's very crucial, right? Which port we have to enter so that it can easily pass through that, where we have a lesser amount of your agreements and your kind of whatever the recent influences towards your personal identifications and other things, that is also causing the problem. So all this data is helping us to drive through that, right? So those are mechanisms which we are trying to get learning much faster in a short span of time, which as a GDC is also, we are also helping on that.
No, I think it is very important question, right? Just going back to the previous presentations which we had, right, on value add from shared services, and I'm proud to tell that we are working and we are helping business, because it's something where you are working and salvaging your business. You are part of a business continuity plan as a shared service, right? So 3 ways we are working in Standard Electric, right, to mitigate any crisis situation. So I will take example. So one is the crisis situation, right? As you rightly said, black swan event or equivalent, right? And we had a couple of them, right? So what we do is, this can be calamity, this can be war, this can be any potential indications on war, right? So whenever we hear something like that, right, we start working on business continuity plan. We kind of look at, for example, if we are facing some tornado challenge, right, in North America region or in Hong Kong region, right, then the team there, because I have team in India, in North America region, in China, and also in Philippines, right? So team there will start working on, what are the suppliers which are or ecosystem encompassed with this particular threat, right? And what we should do proactively to make sure that we mitigate with this, right? So this is one. Second is like, COVID, China is still going on. The team are working. Few of the GPS members in China, they are working out of factories, right? Staying in the dormitory. So we are trying to see how we can kind of run the show as a part of essential service, right, in China. Ukraine, Russia war, right? So we run the war rooms, right? War rooms meaning not literally fighting war room, but the meetings which are called war rooms and you will not believe, but we have our colleagues from Russia and Ukraine also participating in those meetings, right? So it's kind of sometimes tricky to handle such situation where all the parties with mixed emotions are also participating, right? And I think the second topic I have is semiconductor shortage, right? So semiconductor shortage is going on for past just before COVID, right? And is continuing to be there, right? For electronics industry or products with electronics, a lot of electronics inside it, it becomes challenging to manage this particular business continuity, considering that it can directly affect your bottom and top line, right? So we have shared services consolidating full requirement globally, right? And kind of making sure that we control the information in the market, right? So in such a way that we get the best price for whatever the shortages that we have, right? Without creating panic anywhere, because panic will increase the price multifold, right? So this is the second aspect. And third aspect is resilient supply chain, right? So COVID has taught us that, two things. One is power of two. So if you have a supplier in some region, right, which you are dependent on in this region, right, then you need to make sure that you have local supplier developed, or you have alternate supplier developed elsewhere, right, in some other region. So this is power of two is something which we are helping to our sourcing of buyers, how we can quickly transform through quick change of supplier or quick new supplier introduction, right? So these are 3 things I would remember in taking.
Yeah, I think great. So in the interest of time, from a crisis management perspective, the only thing that I would like to say or summarize what my co-panelists have said. See, I think all of us have realized the potential and capacity of all of us, whether in shared services or otherwise. And just to give you an example quickly, if we were to do a project, let's say COVID did not happen and calamities did not happen, and if you were to ask, let's go, Google operates in 200 countries, and if you were to say that we want to close our books 5 days earlier and manage it remotely, and if you put a team together to do this project, there will be 101 reasons that we cannot do. Right? And come COVID, we actually closed books with people sitting remotely globally for 200 countries much earlier than what you would have done when in office. I think it just proves the resilience, the capacity, the capability, and our own potential that exists to manage any crisis. And I think that's the takeaway we have. So just expand your boundaries and don't restrict yourself is the key takeaway that I would say.
Yeah, thanks, Tanmay. So before I go to the next theme, this is something which happens in every person's corporate life. You are creating an onboarding document for a candidate who is going to join tomorrow after a 90-day notice period. Suddenly your phone rings. It's the phone from the same person. On 89th day, that person tells you that he is not going to join your company. Now, the next question is about the hiring and retention, because this is something in an era of quiet quitting, it has become very, very important. So I'll start with Tanmay and would understand your thoughts.
Yeah, I think, and we faced it, and all of us have seen this happen. And I spoke to a lot of other colleagues in the captives industry, including the IT and analytics, where salaries were going through the roof, poaching was happening left, right, and center, attrition at 25-30%, particularly in analytics, RPA, and those spaces where talent shortage and demand-supply gap. One of the core reasons was also that because of this Ukraine and that's disruption of Russia, there was a lot of demand for talent from those countries, which was also fueling all this chaos that was happening over the last 2 years. It's not yet subsided, but obviously it will. We had exactly those instances of, on the 89th day or 80th day, somebody telling us that we're not willing to join. So there is, I would say, what I'm trying to tell my team is that the paradigm has shifted, the models have changed. For certain roles like analytics, IT, core skills, or even in RPA and those skills, we need to look at different methodologies. We need to look at a shelf life of a person being not more than maybe 1 to 2 years. That's one. Second, we need to look at a model where we are saying that we get in fresh graduates who are little knowledgeable on that subject, train them, and then see how much they can contribute, and you're okay with if they leave after 2 years. The third model that I'm trying to explore, a little difficult, where look at a model where other captives can collaborate between each other. So today, if you take Dixon Technologies, they make for 500 different brands, but the same company. Now, how can we collaborate to look at talent that can move around if there is excess capacity somewhere else and can be used somewhere else? So different models, but I think the paradigm has shifted and we have to change our thinking and adapt to what the new generation is looking at, including the things around quiet quitting and all of that we heard, or the great resignation and stuff like that, or the millennial culture or the way they want to work. It's for us to change our thinking and adapt to what can work best in that scenario.
Excellent points, right? Just to add, I can only add to these points, right? Excellent points you made. 3 points. Again, the first point is, sense of purpose, right? So I have been working with Schneider Electric for past 11 years, and whichever team I have been leading, right, locally or globally, I'm seeing very less attrition because of one reason, which is a major reason, which is sense of purpose, right? So as long as you provide sense of purpose to a person, right, and link it with the organizational goal, right, sustainability, the bigger goal, if you ask me, that person will stay, right? So that is number one. Number two, bet on people, right? So they may be, you will come across various talent, right, coming from some other function, coming from totally unrelated function also, but bringing with confidence and common sense, right? So you should be able to bet on them as a manager. Retention will be very high because somebody is putting trust on you, right? And third most important thing is watch out for burnout, right? So you will get early indications in shared services if there are cases where people are burning out, right? So if they are burning out and you're acting quickly for manager, then they will think that this guy cares for us or this lady cares for us, right? So I have my 3 managers here sitting here, right? So I'm also making sure that if I'm coming here, I also bring them along, right? So this kind of empowerment I'm also trying to bring, and I think this goes long way, right, when it comes to the topic of retention.
Yeah, I think most of them are covered. But still, I just try to bring up one of my experiences in the past. So I was just working for Sony in 2015. We wanted to set up a game testing lab in Bangalore. That point of time, we couldn't able to get a person because we were doing a Sony PlayStation 4 and we want somebody to come and play NBA 4 game, and we want that person to reach all the levels with all the ingredients around it. That means you should use the different costumes, you should use the different equipments over there, but we never used to get a person like that in Bangalore. We didn't have the capacity itself. That is where we understood where is the need for that. Then we went to a local art and science colleges. We saw who can play at least our Mickey Mouse and the local games, and we like how we are doing a GTIers. We went to them and we figured out, and we have given some games, PlayStations over there, and we asked them to play. So whoever person is able to reach the maximum level, we got those guys and we started training them. And then it's a course of time, right? So they got trained, now they used to play, they used to test and all. So what happens is after a couple of years, these guys got bored. Okay, every day I have to just come and play here, then what is my next, right? So they're also getting bored. So then we said, okay, now we are doing manually, can you also look into that? Can you automate these step-by-step process, right? That is where they understand they doesn't have the skill to do that. Then they have to do a cross-functioning training for them. Because then we bring out a core automation person, make them to sit with them. One person understand the function, the core guy, this guy has to learn the automation, right? So those cross-functioning was helping them to grow to the next level. But then the next level is again, so we started grooming that, right? So that's an example where we see when it comes to a global talent pool, right? We always keep them on the edge so that there is a learning curve for them. At the same time, are we contributing for those learning curves, right? Today there are about 10 companies in Bangalore which can do game testing actually. If we see in the past, it was just only Sony was doing that, right? Now it is no one there, right? So this is actually helping all the people when there is a cross function, when there is a technology growth, when there is a retention plan for them, right? Which also has all these things that will really help them to grow actually. Thank you.
So for the next topic, a quick show of hands from the audience. So I'm going to mention a statement. I want to know whether you have heard the statement in your current company or not. If the India SAC is not able to do something, let us get it done from Mexico, Philippines, Romania, whatever. So anyone who has heard these statements in your company? Okay, there are. So the next question is about the same thing. How can India SACs remain competitive versus other countries? And is there a requirement to rethink the operating model for the India SAC? So that will start.
Okay, so I think there are two aspects to this. One is, see, we have to remain competitive, whether as individuals, and continue to stay relevant. If you don't, somebody else will do it. So I think whichever way, we have to figure out how to remain competitive. And whether you take it for brands, whether you take it for companies, so there is competition everywhere. However, if you look at it a little differently, and we are trying to get there, is why differentiate for a captive of the same company having multiple centers in a Philippines or a Romania or a Guatemala, as Anand mentioned. So we are trying to move to a network organization where what one leverages is the capability and the expertise, whether it sits in Cambodia, whether it sits in Guatemala, whether it sits in Nepal or wherever, and bring that expertise together for the greater good. And that's the model that we are moving into, irrespective of saying that, yeah, do I need to compete with the Philippines or Romania or India center? So I think if you're able to bring that together in terms of expertise and scale that expertise to really create those centers of competence, irrespective of which geography or location the person is sitting in or the teams are sitting in, then I think the game is a very different game. And if you actually look at when we were discussing sustainability, fundamentally there is no competition in sustainability. It is more about companies collaborating to drive the sustainability agenda for the world. So I think that's the model that one needs to look at, even from a shared services point of view.
Excellent points, right? So, let me tell you, I'm running a global procurement services with teams distributed everywhere. And one thing I can tell you is competition is good, right? But at the same time, right, from the India perspective, if I have to talk about definitely the amount of and head start that we have, the amount of people that we are working in shared services are plenty, right? It doesn't mean that other countries are not catching up. China also is learning English very fast, right? I have a captive center in China, so I can tell you that. So from that experience, what I can tell you is future is, and of course we'll talk about future in a while, right? But going forward, no longer we will be doing the transactional job, right? So it's a value add, right, which will come into picture. And let me tell you, each region will emerge with their unique value add, right? For sustainability, for a certain region, you will need people to work in that region, right? You will not have people working in different regions to work with suppliers in that region, right? So I think there will be a value proposition from each region which will emerge and which will define the future course of action as far as shared services is concerned, because remaining all the things will be replaced by technology as such, right? Is my view.
I think the very interesting fact, we would have all know IPL and all, right? So some point of time, if you go back, right, Test cricket was always being played well and everybody wanted to long. But when T20 is being introduced to the market, everybody said, no, this is shorter version, your game plans will not be there, you need to play a very short game and all, right? But if you think today, it is such a huge billion-dollar business, people with short span of time, they could be able to get it much more commercial, right? So if I think of the same angle, right, India also, if you see our IT journey, initially any Dell support, we used to get it from India. Train them in US accent and then do that, right? Today we are not doing that. We have moved a level in the value chain, right? If you see in that manner, right, sometimes it is good to drop some things to the next level so that we move to the next level. Otherwise we continue to do the same support, we may not grow in our value chains, right? So it is very essential figure out what kind of need we wanted to go so that we can become a leader over there rather just being a contributor for that, right? So that is very, very important.
So there is a saying that words are enough for wise and the actions are enough for penal. So I see that Charmin has stood up. So it's sort of time to wrap up. So it's a last question from my side. So we have leaders with 25 years of experience. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give them a crystal ball and tell them where they will see India SSCs in the next 5 years. So I'll start with Siva.
Just to give you, I think NASCOM reports is also published, right? There are about 14 new GDCs coming up. And now GDC is not going to be just in the high cities, it's going to be in tier 2 cities also, right? So that's for sure that we are going to be there. But what do we want to contribute in those GDCs? Those value chains is very important. We need to think of it actually.
Yeah, so since we have a head start, we have sucked already many activities from the regions, and let me tell you, they don't have any trace of it, right? Because it will all come here. So we can do continuous engineering, innovation will emerge, right? So I think that will give us an advantage in next 5 years, right? A lot of innovations in this space will come from India, in my opinion.
And I think, so just like you have a chief executive officer, a chief sustainability officer now is so much in demand, there should be a chief shared services officer, which will soon come in. And shared services should be seen as driving a huge competitive advantage for the organization at large. So I think that's where I see.
So that's all from our side. We are more than happy to take the questions and answers. Questions, anything?
You have, we have worked from home, right, for say a couple of years, and now we want at least many of our employees to come for 2 days or 3 days in the office. We are talking about the hybrid model, but I think it's a big challenge, right, for all the organizations. There are some plus points we saw, but we have also seen dual employment and other stuffs where we feel at least up to certain experience level. And if you also agree that for juniors it is very, very important sometimes to work with their mentors or the reporting managers in sitting next to next, it helps, especially in technology field. So how are you facing the same kind of challenge getting people back in office, and what in your organizations you are taking steps to motivate people to at least work on a hybrid model?
Yeah, I can take the question. Since all how you guys are here for me, right? And this is the classic discussion we have all the time. We have been pretty flexible, right? And let me tell you, the challenge is real. We have people working from places like Chintamani, Hassan, Harvard, Hubli, right? Because we have hired, they have come, they have taken laptop, they have gone back to their house, right? And they are working from them. And let me tell you, we don't have any complaint with respect to deliverables, right? But challenges are real with respect to collaboration, with respect to commitment to the job. Also knowing their own colleagues, right? People learn from each other, people make lesser number of mistakes. So there are so many plus points to work from office. So what we have done is, we have asked them to start with 1 day, and we started 2 months back. Now we are at 2 days, right? And that is all, right? So 2 days they can come, they go back wherever they are coming from, right? And that's okay. They don't have to kind of take a accommodation in Bangalore and stay and all for permanent basis and all. So we are flexible. We are taking it slow, but we have a target that by next year, probably April or May, right? We will at least achieve 4 days in a week, and this is something which we are working on right now.
So I think, thanks for asking the question, because it's a very, very genuine question for which I would think that the best of HRs or anyone doesn't have a very black and white answer in terms of how to make it work. We first said when COVID happened that hybrid is the model and it will work like that. We've had cases where people have said that I want to resign if you ask me to come back to office. Good guys and great people, and we don't want to lose them. So, like Devin said, we are wanting to be flexible. We've redesigned to seat only 70%, and very frankly, I would say that I'm still trying to figure out. That how do you continue to have, so when we did the engagement scores, we did drop a bit, but again, it is too recent because of certain specific issues, so we can't say that it's not working in terms of a hybrid model. We need to again adapt and figure out new ways of engaging with people. So I think that's very, very important. And like I think in one of the sessions, Mr. Ranganath was saying that if somebody is onboarding, the first onboarding has to be physical. The plant, we used to do a lot of plant visits, market visits for the new joiners. We stopped that during COVID. Then we started doing AR, VR based kind of onboarding. But it doesn't give that same experience. So we have to, I think the short answer is we have yet to figure out the right model for engagement. So we are all in that boat where we're trying to get the right answer.